Hi guys, it's Tina Abnafriwa and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Okay, so dating as a black person in Japan, is it love or is it just a fetish? Questions I get asked quite frequently by my friends, especially when I moved down to Japan a couple of years ago, was, how is it like being a black woman out there? Do Japanese guys go for black girls? Um, are there other black guys? The answer to all of that is yes, Japanese guys do go for black girls. There are other black guys, and it's actually pretty awesome being a black woman in Japan. Let me explain. So, I'm sure that when you think of Japan, what comes to mind usually is something like this, or something like this, perhaps just this. You don't actually think about how people live. And if you do, and you're anything like me, I have to admit, my perceptions, all clouded by Hollywood. I only got to understand Japan when I read books by Haruki Murakami, etc. He's one of my legends. I love him. And if you've been on my website, link below, you'll know how much I love him. Like, I love him. So yeah, I never actually understood like the intricacies of people's lives in the way that Western literature presents Western lives. So I didn't have any idea whatsoever about interracial relationships or any of that. What I thought really was that white women were celebrated and that white guys going to Japan would probably have it really easy because Japanese probably like white guys because of the media. All of which is a little bit, there's a hint of truth to that, but not in its entirety. And I think if you're a black woman thinking about relocating and you're asking yourself these questions about would you find somebody if you're single, if that's what your intention to meet somebody out there, honestly, go for it, do it. I find that it was really easy to not assimilate into the culture, but easy to get along if you were clear about who you were, you respected their culture, you took time to understand the nuances within their culture, then you have a much better chance of meeting people who would introduce you to other people. You know what I mean? And I only say that because when I was out there, I found that there was a lot of people that I'd meet who, for one, didn't speak Japanese, and that's not a problem, but they weren't making any attempts to learn Japanese. They were really just hoping to get by on, I don't know, looks and Western charm. It doesn't work. People are not stupid. Like, you have to really embrace the culture. You have to show an appreciation and love of Japanese culture. And that's how you meet people. And that's how people allow you to enter kind of different spaces. At least that was my experience. And along that, you're bound to meet the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever you're into, and you're bound to meet somebody you can, just get along with. I never personally dated anybody Japanese while I was living out there. Not that I wasn't interested, but I already had somebody out there, so that was not going to happen. But I was approached a number of times by Japanese men, and I always found the approach quite courteous. You know, there was one instance where I was walking, I lived in Nagoya. I was walking through the station, and I'll never forget this because I just thought, wow, he really had some balls. This guy tried to get my attention. I was in a hurry going somewhere. And I must have been halfway across, like inside the station. And he power walked literally to get to me, like mini jogging. And when he reached me, it was like, sumimasen, like, excuse me, I think you're so beautiful, blah, 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 all the flatteries. And I was really taken back. I'd never experienced that before. My perception of Japanese culture, Japanese men, primarily they're quite shy. But again, just perceptions, not reality, not for everybody. Do you know what I mean? I feel like we make so many assumptions about people based on Hollywood, based on all sorts, but people are people. wherever you go, you're going to find people within every culture who are shy, people who are a bit more, forward, a bit more courageous, not the right word, just a bit more bold. And he was definitely one of those guys. And I let him down easy, told him that I had somebody, blah, blah, blah. And he just continued with, you're so gorgeous, it was let's keep in touch kind of thing. And I had to be like, no, a firm no. But I was impressed. If I hadn't been with somebody, I probably would have given him the time of day. I was impressed. So, yeah, I mean, if you are wondering about if it's possible to meet somebody once you're out there, it definitely is. When I was writing my novel, I thought about this. I thought about the complexities of relationships. So, my main character is involved in a relationship with a black person in Japan, and her best friend is also involved with another black person in Japan. I think I met more Japanese girls who were in relationship with black guys than I did meet black women in relationship with Japanese men. I guess also because you don't meet that many black women, especially where I was. Like, you have a few in Nagoya, it's a big city, but I just happened to be around a lot of more Japanese girls than I was around black girls. I met black girls sparingly. There was always like flatteries and exchange of flatteries and, just exchange of, hellos, etc., etc. But for whatever reason, I didn't make any substantial black female friends. We were always just ships sailing in the night, just passing. It's like, oh, okay, I live in Toyota. Oh, I live here, or I live there. Oh, let's keep in touch. Cool. And you might keep in touch via Facebook or Instagram. Was Instagram? I wasn't on Instagram then. You might keep in touch via Facebook or something, but I didn't actually make deep connections. And the Japanese girlfriends that I was around, a couple were involved with black guys. But what I did notice was that once their relationships ended with the men they were with these black men, they would move on to other black men. And it just made me question, like, are you genuinely in love with them, or are you in love with something they represent? And it was hard to actually articulate. It's difficult asking people those questions because Japanese people are, I don't know, it was just difficult trying to pry responses out of people. But a lot of what I got was, I really like, African culture, if the person was African, or, I just think that sometimes you'd get that I think black guys are cool. So it was interesting. It was very interesting. And I met one girl. Yes, I met one black girl while I was out there who was married to a Japanese guy, and she was a makeup artist. And at the time, I think she had quite a following on YouTube because, she was really kind of eager to show me her page, etc. And she'd been living out in Japan for ages. I think she met her partner whilst they were in university in the States, and she moved over. She relocated to be with him. And she seemed quite happy, but again, I didn't have that kind of connection with her to ask her more about what their life was like, or, whether she'd met lots of other black girls out there, whether she'd had that kind of, yeah. So it's different. I think it's different when you're going to university, when you're studying out there and you're around lots of foreigners, perhaps if you're a black woman, you're around lots of other black women, versus when you leave and you're going to teach, you're going to work, it's a very different experience. And it's also obviously very different where you get placed. If you're placed in big cities or you're placed in like really small towns, it differs a lot. But I will always say that my experience pertaining to dating in Japan, it was a whirlwind. I was in my early 20s. I did not go there with the intention to find Mr. Right and settle down or anything. I went out there to have fun. Not have fun as in, go crazy and sleep around. That's not my type of fun. But just be easy, no stress, just chill, meet a few people, go on a few dates, let my hair down. That's what I was about. At the back of my mind, I always knew that I was coming home. And that's another thing as well. So if you are going out there with the intention to stay, the way you think will be very different. Your approach to dating will be very different. What you're looking for clearly will be very different. I was going out there with the intention to have a great time, have an experience, meet a couple of cool people, make memories, and leave. Back to London. Yes, that's what I was going out there for. And for me, I think it was brilliant. But like in almost all places, you know, when you are black, you do stand out. People do take notice. I never experienced any racism, firstly, when I was in Japan. What I did experience was ignorance. People don't know, and you just have to do the work of correcting and educating. But I didn't experience any racism whatsoever. And I've been traveling back and forth to Japan for almost 16 years. None whatsoever. Actually, let me take that back. Airport security is probably the only place that makes my skin boil and makes me feel super othered, you know, because you could be with a gang of white people and as the only black person, you'll get picked out and searched. So at the airport, especially in small airports like Nagoya, etc., you're going to get stopped and they're going to search you. Didn't have that experience in Osaka, didn't have that experience in Tokyo. So, but yeah, I think people are more curious about you than anything else when you are different. And that's why it was just, I don't know, I think it's just so important to me to center my novel in this place where your difference isn't scrutinized, isn't dissected to be something terrible. You know, people don't have these ideas about you and notions about you before they meet you. Seriously, I feel like once you embrace Japanese culture, Japanese people also tend to embrace you. And that was my experience while I was out there. And men are men. Women are women. Do you know what I mean? As much as culture shapes us, we are very, very similar. You will find the perverts. You will find the shy guys. You will find the, what do they call them? Nikushoku, which is like aggressive in terms of how they approach women. You'll find all of that. Just as you would find that in London or New York or wherever. It's everywhere. Men are men. And that was my experience. As I got approached by a gangload of Japanese guys. And I got approached by a gangload of Black American men. Like, it is what it is. Yeah. So that was my experience. So if you are somebody preparing to go out there for whatever reason, don't be scared. Don't be, and especially if you're a Black woman, you are very desirable and you will be very desired wherever you go. You know, be confident. And I think I would say this, like, as much as you love other people's culture, don't try too hard to like, it's not, I don't want to say assimilate, but don't force it. Appreciate the culture. It's not your own. Yeah, it's not yours. Appreciate it for what it is. Make the effort to get to know, to be in the know, to, you know, to get along and to be able to just peacefully coexist with people, you know, have that respect. But ultimately, what I found really helped me was people love the fact that I'm proud Afro-British. Well, I'm proud Ghanaian, man. Let's cut the Afro-British things out. People love the fact that I was a proud Ghanaian woman. You know, yes, I've lived in London all my life. I was raised here, but I'm not born here. And I'm very proud of, you know, the country that I was born in. I'm very proud of who I am. And I found that people just draw to you when you have that sense of pride and you know who you are. So if you are planning on living out there, if you are planning on traveling, know who you are and embrace who you are and celebrate who you are, because then you are more likely to attract people who want to know about you genuinely. And that's also when it comes to dating. If you're in a hurry to try to like replicate some, you know, something that's not you, or try to fit the mold, or you can't be more Japanese than a Japanese person, my friend. Do you understand? You can wear all the kimonos you want. You can't be more Japanese than a Japanese person. Be who you authentically are, and you will definitely align yourself with the right people. You'll connect yourself with the right people. You'll make the right friendships, your friendship groups. You'll meet the right man or woman, whoever it is that you're looking for. It will happen. And if it doesn't happen, Charlie, there's always online dating. Okay? So that's my 2 cents about dating in Japan, which went, God, around the world. But yes, thank you for watching and thank you for joining me today. Until next time.